Matthew 6, 5 to 15, the prayer of the kingdom. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus continues describing the nature of righteousness within the covenant world of Israel. After speaking about almsgiving, he turns to prayer. His words are addressed to people living under the law and the temple-centered system of first-century Judaism, where religious activity was often performed publicly for recognition. The contrast he draws is not between prayer and silence, but between outward religious display and the genuine relationship that the coming kingdom would reveal. Jesus begins, open quote, "And when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen by men." Close quote. Prayer in Israel had become intertwined with public reputation. The word hypocrites refers to actors, those performing before an audience. In the religious culture of that time, some treated prayer as a visible badge of piety. Jesus exposes this as empty performance. Their reward was the approval of the crowd, which was the only reward they would receive. In contrast, Jesus says, open quote, "But you, when you pray, go into your room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place." Sor, close quote. This instruction does not create a new law of secrecy, but reveals the nature of true communion with God. The Father is not confined to public religious spaces. The temple system was still standing, yet Jesus speaks of direct access to the Father, a visible structure. This anticipates the approaching transition in which access to God would no longer be mediated through the old covenant institutions. Jesus continues, open quote, "And when you pray, do not use vain repetitions as the Gentiles do." Close quote. Among the nations surrounding Israel, prayer often consisted of repeated formulas designed to persuade reluctant deities. Jesus rejects the idea that God must be persuaded through endless words. Open quote. "For your Father knows the things you have need of before you ask him." Close quote. Here, Jesus reveals the character of God as Father, one who already knows and provides. Prayer, therefore, is not informing God of something unknown, but expressing dependence upon him. Jesus then gives what is commonly called the Lord's Prayer. Open quote, "Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name." Close quote. The prayer begins with recognition of God's holiness. The name of God represents his revealed character and covenant faithfulness. In the prophetic writings, the sanctification of God's name was connected with the restoration of his people and the vindication of his covenant promises. Open quote, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Close quote. This request reflects the central theme of Jesus' ministry, the arrival of the reign of God. Throughout Israel's history, the prophets spoke of a coming age when God's rule would be fully established among his people. Jesus' proclamation that the kingdom was near indicated that the long-awaited fulfillment was unfolding in that generation. The prayer anticipates the completion of that divine purpose. Open quote, "Give us this day our daily bread," close quote. The language echoes Israel's wilderness experience when God provided manna each day. Just as God sustained Israel during their journey, the disciples express reliance upon his provision during the unfolding transition between covenant ages. Open quote, "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." Close quote. Within the covenant framework of Israel, forgiveness and reconciliation were deeply connected with the life of the community. The prophets repeatedly declared that restoration among God's people was inseparable from the forgiveness he would grant through the coming Messiah. The prayer reflects that expectation. Open quote, "And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one." Close quote. The term temptation can also be understood as testing or trial. The first century was marked by increasing turmoil within Judea, culminating in the crisis that Jesus frequently warned about. Deliverance from evil points to God's preservation of his people during that period of upheaval. Jesus then adds an explanation regarding forgiveness. Open quote, "For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." Close quote. Under the covenant structure in which Jesus was speaking, forgiveness was understood in relational and communal terms. The community of God's people was to reflect his mercy toward one another. Open quote, "But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." Close quote. These words reveal the seriousness of reconciliation within the covenant family. The message of Jesus consistently exposed the inadequacy of outward religious observance while revealing the deeper righteousness that characterized the kingdom he was bringing. The prayer Jesus teaches is therefore not merely a set of words to be repeated. It reflects the hope of Israel, the expectation of God's reign, the reliance upon divine provision, and the promise of forgiveness that would be fully realized through the work of the Messiah and the completion of the age that was then drawing into its close.